بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, at the next chapter in the book Riyad us-Saliheen, chapter number 13, where our author Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he said Babu Bayanu Kathratu Turuqil Khair, the chapter that deals with clarifying the numerous paths of goodness. Kathratu turuqil khair, there are plenty of paths towards goodness. There are lots of paths towards goodness, which means that Allah Azza wa Jal, out of His mercy and His grace, has made this deen one that is, or made ways for us to reach Him that are plentiful. And it's not just one way that we worship Allah. There are different forms of ways that we get close to Him. There are different forms of ibadat. And this is out of the mercy of Allah and the hikmah of Allah. Because if we had one act of worship, there's only one way that we worship Allah, people would become tired. People would become exhausted. They become bored. This is all we do. This is all we have as Muslims. This is the only path of goodness that we have. We'd become bored. Insan, naturally, we become tired and weary and so forth. So Allah Azza wa Jal, what did He do? He gave us different avenues of goodness, different ways to reach Him through ibadat, that we can acquire rewards, different rewards. And this is the other benefit, that through each worship there are different benefits that we reap, different benefits for our soul, different benefits for our tazkiyah, for our akhlaq, our tarbiyah. So for example, salah has a certain effect on us. It teaches us certain discipline. Sadaqah is something different. It opens up the heart, different. Fasting is something completely different. Then we have Hajj. You have jihad fi sabilillah, which requires bravery, it requires strength, courage. All of these things we find is different. And the effect it has on the believer is different. And we find through these ibadat, what happens? We create a holistic believer. A person who's strong in all avenues. Kathratu turuqil khair. There's so many avenues of goodness. And then the author rahimahullah, he mentioned some ayat. Where Allah Azza wa Jal, He said, وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ بِهِ عَلِيمٌ. That whatever you do of goodness, of khair, then Allah is aware of it. Allah is knowledgeable of it. And in another verse, both of us in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ يَعْلَمُهُ اللَّهُ. Whatever you do of goodness, Allah is knowledgeable of it. He knows it. Both of these ayat, the word khairiyah is used unrestrictedly, meaning any type of goodness that you do, Allah is aware of it. And in Surah Zalzalah, Allah said, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ. Whoever does a small ant's weight of goodness, any form of khair, then he will see this as a reward. You will see his reward with Allah. And Allah Azza wa Jal said in Surah Al-Jathiyah, مَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا فَلِنَفْسِهِ. Whoever does any righteous deed, then it is for himself. Meaning, the reward, the benefit is for himself. And other verses, there are plenty of verses that prove the point the author is trying to make is, there's not just one form of ibadah, one form of goodness. Ibn Uthaymin rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, when we look at the arkan of, or the pillars that goodness is built upon, that ibadah is built upon, then he said there are three types. Number one is that which is from spending wealth, badlul mal, where you have to spend money. Number two is physical acts of worship that you have to use your body for. And number three is a ibadat that uses both. So money obviously would be your sadaqah and your zakah, where a person has to go against his nafs, because each person naturally you incline towards your wealth that you've earned. You have to give up and you have to go against your nafs and spend it for the sake of Allah. As for your physical actions, this could include salah, this could include jihad, this could include sitting and reading the Quran, making dhikr, fasting. These are physical acts of worship that you have to use your body to implement. And then you get ibadat that uses both your body as well as your wealth. Like Hajj. Hajj, you have to spend money and then physically go and do Hajj. Also jihad fi sabilillah. You have to spend and you have to go out in the path of Allah. So the Shaykh says, you will find each worship comes back to one of these three things. It's either wealth that you have to give, or it's from a physical nature, or it's a bit of both. But through these three, you will find there are so many ways to worship Allah, so many ways to get closer to Allah Azza wa Jal, and each one brings about something different for the believer, a different benefit, different reward, and so forth. Wallahu a'lam. So this is the chapter that we are going to go through next. Tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala, we'll go through the ahadith in this chapter. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.